Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak in this debate. Before highlighting a few of the ways in which I believe this draft budget does actually support public services, I would like just to take a moment to remind Parliament of the economic and fiscal backdrop to the current process. The UK Government is cutting the Scottish Government's resource budget by £500 million over the next 2 years. This, of course, is the budget that pays for the day-to-day running of our public services. This, of course, includes paying the salaries of public sector employees like nurses, firefighters and police officers. This £500 million budget reduction in itself should be also understood in the broader context of almost a decade of austerity implemented by the UK Government, which in itself represented a failure to effectively respond to the wake of the financial crash in 2008. As a consequence of misguided and dogmatic UK Government policy, we have endured a prolonged period of wage stagnation, with real income growth suppressed and inequality rising. And, Presiding Officer, all of this, wage stagnation, the rise of insecure work and welfare cuts, has been exacerbated by the huge economic imbalance between the South East and the rest of the UK. All of these systemic distortions and inequalities within the wider UK economy, combined with the anticipated headwinds resulting from Brexit, on top of a £500 million reduction in the resource element of the block grant, creates an extremely challenging environment in which to set a budget. This is a challenge not only to the Government, but to all of us in this place, which is, after all, a Parliament of minorities. The draft budget, as laid before the Parliament, in my view, represents a bold and innovative response to this challenge. In committing an additional £400 million to the NHS, it supports our most treasured public service. By increasing spending on educational attainment, it demonstrates the Scottish Government's commitment to reducing the attainment gap. Significant increases in the economy portfolio budget and continued support for small businesses show a government that is determined to support economic growth. And the allocation of additional funds to Creative Scotland, in light of reductions from the National Lottery, have been welcomed from across Scotland's cultural sector. These represent but a handful of the provisions within the draft budget that will contribute towards protecting public services.
Would the member give way?
Certainly.
Patrick Harvey.
I'm grateful to the member for giving way. The Cabinet Secretary has made the case that the tax policy changes he's proposing bring the overall Scottish Government budget back into real terms growth. Does the member have any idea why it's therefore impossible to provide real terms growth in the funding from Scottish Government to local government to protect those services?
Tom Arthur.
I thank Patrick Harvey for that intervention, and I think ultimately that's a point I'm going to come on to later on in my remarks, and it comes fundamentally down to choices, and I'm sure he will continue to engage constructively with the Cabinet Secretary to make that case. But ultimately, funds being allocated to one area of spending mean less funds for another area, and that's something that he will have to advocate, and it's a position he'll have to put forward. And I say on that topic, Presiding Officer, today was an opportunity for Labour to table a motion setting out their priorities and visions for public services, and for it to be subjected to the trial of parliamentary scrutiny. It is therefore disappointing that James Kelly has chosen instead to frame this debate as a vote of no confidence in the draft budget. Just as with their unwillingness to engage constructively with the Government ahead of the draft budget, the Labour front bench would rather chase, unfortunately, the easy headline and spare themselves the bother of the deep thinking and heavy lifting that making a meaningful contribution would require. As is sadly now the norm for that once great institution, they'll choose easy gimmicks over hard graft. Turning to the Tories, I have to say it seems that they're having something of an identity crisis. Instinctively, they wish to slash taxes on high earners and shrink the state. But they're a devious lot, the Tories, and they know that such a view— I'm sorry, I've already taken one intervention.
He's in his last minute.
But they know that such a view is the minority. But then again, they know that to slash and burn is a minority position in Scotland, and would see them punished at the ballot box. So we end up with the unsustainable absurdity of the Tories simultaneously calling for tax cuts for the wealthy and increased public spending. For a party which prides itself on straight-talking, common-sense politics, this is utterly pathetic. So I say to the Tories, have the courage of your convictions. If the Tories believe that high earners such as MSPs should receive a tax cut, then they should set out from where in the draft budget they will take the money to pay for it. Will we take it from the £400 million for the NHS?
You must close,
Will it be from the
please.
£179 million to raise attainment in our schools? Will it be from the £600 million committed to the rollout of 100% access to superfast broadband? Or will it be
You
from the
must
£100
close,
million
Mr Arthur.
the Scottish Government spends every year mitigating Tory welfare cuts? Presiding Officer, this is a budget that works for all of Scotland, and I'm looking forward to backing it in the coming weeks.